Specter Divide is a 3v3 tactical shooter being developed by Mountaintop Studios and has a lot of CSGO and Valorant DNA. However, there are a number of differences that not only make it stand out, but in my opinion, makes it a better game overall. To add to this, the game is being developed with the help of Shroud, so it's not like these developers are putting something together that kinda looks like a competitive shooter, but is being built with feedback to make it as competitive as possible. There was a stress test for this game yesterday on August 3rd, and I was able to try it out and play a match, which lasted about 12 rounds. Unfortunately, that test did not allow us to record or stream gameplay, so everything you see on screen is going to be a mix between the trailers that are out there and some footage from Shroud's video. And consider this video to be a proper first impression as I completed the tutorial, tested a few weapons and played one match, which the match alone took about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. One major difference about Specter Divide is the ability to shoot while moving. In CSGO and Valorant, if you want to land your shots, you will have to stand still or counter-strafe. It's not something that everyone is great at doing, and it's also not something that's very easy to learn, and it's one of the few reasons why I don't play these games. However, with Specter Divide, that's no longer an issue. The game focuses on ADS or aim down sights gameplay, so each weapon has its own iron sight or optic, and you will have to use it if you wish to be accurate. For me, this feature alone is enough to get me in the door and try the game out, and in my experience, it was a great feeling. These weapons do have their own recoil patterns, and they are not at all lenient. Of course, with some SMGs or certain rifles, the recoil patterns may be easier to handle, but even with the SMGs, it felt like they would only be useful up close. At least the ones I tried out were not very easy to handle at range, which is great, as it avoids having SMGs being too viable at any range. I can at least tell that seems to be an intentional decision from the developers. Now, Spectre Divide isn't the first game technically to have done this. A game I've covered before, Alara Prime, also had a similar gameplay style. However, that game is currently shelved and may never be released. Feel free to watch my videos on that game if you're curious about it. At least this idea of shooting on the go and prioritizing ADS in a tactical shooter like this is something more developers are thinking about. If you're enjoying this video so far, please give it a like and consider subscribing as we make our climb to 1,000 subscribers. The big gimmick to this game is a round-based 3v3 game, but every player has 2 lives with a second life being called a Spectre. Along with that, you can place your second character anywhere around the map and even toss it around certain objects for better vantage points. The maps are designed with this in mind, so you don't really have to look around and wonder where you should put your Spectre. You can at least make some basic plays and catch enemies off guard without needing hours of game time. This second life is also always on the level, so if you place them in a wide open spot or leave them in your spawn, they can be axed by the enemy. Another gimmick that's starting to make its rounds is to base some of the gameplay or gadgets around sponsors. The Finals does this with cosmetics and billboards across the level. With Spectre Divide, your gadgets are themed after an in-universe sponsor. You can choose whichever one best fits your playstyle. If you want throwable grenades that deal damage, you can pick a sponsor with that ability available in its preset. If you want something that's more focused on smoke and mirrors, there's a sponsor for that. I do like how each sponsor is different, but also has some alternative gadgets that's meant for damage, smoke, or a flash nade of some type. It may not be as effective as another setup, but you will have something to work with. This game would not be inspired by CSGO or Valorant if it did not have a shop. So yeah, you will have to buy your gear after every round unless you survived. However, it's not like you will be completely useless or feel like you're at a steep disadvantage if you have to buy a cheaper loadout. At least for me, I was able to use some cheaper setups and do well with them. I'm personally not a fan of having to buy your gear after every round, but this game really makes it less stressful or impactful. I'm sure as people figure out the metas, everyone will want to gravitate towards the clearly better weapons, but that doesn't mean a cheaper setup is going to result in a clear loss. It really feels like there's more variety for early to mid game. Since the match I played was just a standard casual match, I don't know how well the game's economy is going to work in competitive. If the economy in cash you get per round is the same in casual as it is in ranked mode, then I'm sold. I would much rather have a game focus on the gunplay and skill of each team, rather than the snowball effect we constantly see in CSGO, where a team has to sacrifice 2 or 3 rounds to have enough cash to buy their loadouts. I'm not expecting to break the economy and always have 10,000 plus credits each round, and use the absolute best gear possible, but I also don't want to feel like I have to lose rounds on purpose. For now, the way it worked in the playtest, it felt very viable, and I hope it continues to feel and work that way when the game is released across all modes. When it comes to the game's art style, it's heavily inspired by the 90s comic book and anime styles. focusing on bright and contrasting colors, which makes characters stick out and is easier to read and understand what's going on compared to many other games. I enjoy the art style and appreciate what it does to the gameplay. I could be nitpicky and say the characters look too oversaturated, and maybe there's something that can be done to tone it down, but I'm not really going to complain. My focus on games like this is visual clarity. If I can tell the difference between a duck floaty and an actual character model, I'm good. I also don't care that much for cosmetics, so if you want that kind of feedback, you should look elsewhere. I'm very much a function over form kind of person when it comes to competitive games and the way that they look. And just like the art style, the future for Specter Divide looks bright, as it resolves a lot of the headaches and issues I personally have with CSGO and Valorant. Whether or not it's a daily driver for me is another story, as the matches are fairly long. Hopefully there will be other modes available like a deathmatch mode or other options that are more about getting a quick game in than spending 20 minutes for one match. If you got in this far, please give this video a like and consider subscribing for gaming news, highlights, and more. And if you played this game during the stress test or before then, let me know what you think about the game and if what I said was accurate. Until we get our hands on this game again, I am Mr. Rain, and I will see you next time.